Greetings guys, gals and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another virtual Pride video. I hope that everything is going well. I hope that you are staying safe and that you are fighting, because there's a lot to be fighting for. Along those lines, as I said last time, I have created a page on my website where you can sign petitions, donate, send emails to MPs surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement, the situation in Yemen, the situation in Poland, and I've just added a whole page of other petitions and emails to send and other ways you can help other things that are happening in the world. That will be linked in the description, or you can go straight to thequeerkiwi.com/support. It is incredibly important to be talking about these things, to be raising awareness and to be educating each other and staying on top of it, because the media is not reporting very much on these things and we need to be informed. Today is Virtual Pride Sex Education, which I think is really cool and really important because LGBTQ+ sex education is very, very often overlooked in the education system and curriculum. So I went to Instagram and I asked you to ask me your sex questions, and I was going to sit down and answer them. I think I will do a couple more episodes of the sex education thing because there's quite a few other things that I think need to be talked about. Along this, Kat and I have a podcast coming out next Wednesday where we sort of talk about sex a little bit and like the porn industry and that sort of thing. So stay tuned for that. I will link the podcast in the description, or it'll pop up one of these sides. I don't know which side. My audience is 100% female. YouTube doesn't give like non-binary analytics for some reason. I think that needs to change, but I'm assuming that it's like female at birth or possibly trans women. But a majority of my subscribers have vaginas, I guess I should say. So this is going to be queer women and female at birth related questions. I'm just going to be saying vagina people because I don't want to have to specify who I'm talking about every time, and I want to be inclusive. So the first question that was asked is STIs and 2 female at birth people having sex, and are they transmittable, and how to prevent that from happening. This is a very important question and something that I think really needs to be talked about at school, and it's really disappointing that it isn't. So I wanted to start this off by saying yes, you can get sexually transmitted infections between 2 vagina people. And these are mostly preventable as well. A lot of the population carry a strain of herpes, which often shows as cold sores. However, you can transfer like cold sore herpes into genital herpes on another partner. So you want to avoid giving someone oral when you have cold sores, because that can cause them to get genital herpes. However, there is a preventable measure for this, and that is dental dams, which is like a piece of latex that you can like spread out over your partner's vulva, and you can use that to prevent genitals to mouth, mouth to genitals infection. If you don't have access to these but you have condoms, you can actually, if you cut off the bottom ring and you cut off the tip and then you cut up the side and you can unroll it into a sheet, that is effectively the same as a dental dam. Condoms are easily accessible and they're quite affordable, so that is a way to make your own dental dam. This is especially important if you have cuts or scratches or anything inside of your mouth, because that is a breeding ground for blood-borne diseases. So HIV and things can be transmitted into your blood. So if you have like cuts and things inside your mouth and you are going down on someone and they have HIV or something like that, and their vaginal fluid gets into the cuts in your mouth, then that is a way to contract HIV yourself. So a way that STIs can be transmitted is through bodily fluid. So you have to be sure that if you're using toys, it is very recommended to put a condom on your toys, and that way you can remove it and you can use your toy on another person. And also ensure that you are washing your toys, and that means washing them with warm water and soap, or better yet, toy cleaner, which is just so much better and is less likely to cause damage to the toys because they're specifically made to clean toys. This is available from all sex shops where you get your toys from, so it's super easily available and definitely worth the purchase. Also, if you are using toys, you want to make sure that you are getting medical grade material. So medical grade silicone, glass, or like stainless steel. You don't want to get any of those like jelly type rubber because they're sticky, just bacteria and things stick to them and they're much harder to keep clean. And the medical grade silicone ones feel nicer as well, and they're just much better to keep, much better to have, much cleaner. And it is always worth spending a little bit more money on something that you know is going to be safe. Another important thing is to make sure you wash your hands, and especially under your nails. A lot of bacteria can get under your nails, and so I mean, having short nails is always a plus because otherwise it hurts, right? But like, it also stops bacteria from being able to be transmitted from underneath your nails. So you always want to make sure that you wash your hands. And if you have like multiple partners, or you're touching yourself and then touching the other person, it is better to wash your hands between that, because otherwise you're moving bodily fluid from one person to another person, and that is a way to spread infection. So this also means there's no safe way for you to have vulva to vulva contact, because there is no protection method available for that. So you want to try to keep bodily fluids to oneself and make sure everything is clean. You can also wear gloves if you want to. Latex gloves with lube works well as well. But the best way, obviously, to prevent STIs is to get tested. So it's always important to ask if your partner has been tested, and if they haven't been, or you're unsure, then take as many protective measures as you possibly can. Vagina on vagina. So yeah, those are the best ways to stay safe. Dental dams, latex gloves, washing your hands, and being tested. And cleaning toys. Cleaning toys is also important even after you use them on yourself. If you don't keep your toys clean, you can give yourself a yeast infection. So whether it be from you to a partner, or partner to partner, or you to yourself, clean your toys after every single use. Another question I got asked a lot, because again, it's not something that's talked about, and pornography is very male-centric even when it is lesbian sex. What is vagina on vagina sex, and what does that look like? And to that, the answer is not any specific thing. It is different for every single person. There's a conception that sex is penis and vagina, and that's what sex is. And that isn't true at all. You can classify anything as sex. That's your decision. And that idea of penis and vagina being sex, and that's the only type of sex, is very heteronormative. Obviously, sex looks different for every single person, and only you get to determine what counts for you and what you determine as sex. And when it comes to something like virginity, you get to decide when your first time was and what you want to count as your first time, because virginity is a construct, and that is a whole other tangent I could go off on. But basically, you get to decide, and it's different for each pair. There is no one way to have sex and to deem sex. Some people are into some things and some people aren't. Some people don't like oral sex and other people love it. It's all up to you and your partner, and those are discussions that you have. The most important part of sex is communication. So that's telling your partner what you like, asking what they like, what they want you to do, guiding them as to what you want them to do, and just a discussion and a conversation and learning together. And any person you have sex with is going to be a different experience, because everyone has different likes, everyone is into different things, and it's just going to be a different experience for every single person that you have a sexual encounter with. And you just have to be open to that, and you have to have discussions, you have to set boundaries, and you have to talk about what is and isn't okay, and just make sure that there is an understanding. As long as there is consent and people are listening to each other, then it is up to you to decide. And only you and your partner can decide, and no one can interfere and say, well, that's not sex, because it's not their idea of sex, but it doesn't mean that it isn't sex. That makes sense. On that note, someone asked about masturbation and feeling shame around masturbation. There is such a big shame around that, and there's a lot of this internalized like feeling dirty and like you shouldn't be doing that. And that is just such an awful and sad way to feel, because knowing yourself and knowing your own body is ultimately going to make your sexual experiences much better, because it makes you more comfortable in your own sexuality, and it makes you more aware of what you like and what you're into, and it means communication is going to be more open. And that's another thing you can do with your partner that is a safe way to have a sexual encounter, and that is mutual masturbation, in which you both are together but touching yourselves. And that's a safe way to have sex, isn't it? because no one's touching anyone. No fluids get mixed up. Everyone is safe. It's such a personal and private thing, and sharing that with a partner is a very intimate experience. And not everyone is into that. Not everyone likes that, and that's okay. But it is another option, and that is something that you can count as sex. Up to you, as I say. And again, when it comes to masturbation, if you're using toys, you have to make sure that you clean them after every use with warm water and soap, or preferably toy cleaner. Along the lines of keeping things clean, someone was asking about like self-care and making sure you're clean after having sex, or just any day of the week. And I think that that's a really important thing to talk about. Vaginas are self-cleaning, and I think that that needs to be discussed and talked about at school. You shouldn't be putting soap down there because it can mess up the pH level, and that can cause infections, and you do not want that. When you get discharge, that is your vagina cleaning itself. And a lot of people are concerned about discharge, and they think that it's abnormal that they're producing it, and I want to assure you that it is not. Discharge is a very normal part of your cycle, and sometimes in your cycle it is going to be heavier than other times, but it is important to monitor it, because if there is a big change in your discharge, how much there is, what it looks like, color, things like that, then you need to see a doctor, because that can be a sign of infection or something going wrong. And some people get more than others, and certain times of the month you're going to get more than other times of the month, but that is a normal part of your cycle, and that is your vagina's cleaning process. You do not need to use soap, but if you want to, again, you can get special pH balanced soap that you can use. However, it is not necessary. One of the other things that got asked a fair amount, does there have to be a top and a bottom in a sexual relationship? And I think that this is a problematic question purely because like meme culture and TikTok have sort of made it seem like there is a top and a bottom in all sexual relationships, particularly among queer women. The term top and bottom comes from relationships between two penis people. So there's the top, the giver and the receiver. And oftentimes those are roles that they prefer. One prefers to penetrate, one prefers to be penetrated, and then there's vice, who are people that don't mind either. And sometimes people are very, very strict on that, and they're like, this is what I like, not a fan of the other way around. And that is chill, that's fine. However, that doesn't really apply too much for vagina people. And when it comes to our community, it often refers to like a masculine type and a feminine type, which is very heteronormative. When you're saying like top and bottom, that implies that someone receives pleasure and someone gives pleasure. And that shouldn't be how it works. It should be equal. There are situations in which obviously like if you're using like a strap-on or things like that, there might be a person who prefers wearing the strap-on and a person who prefers receiving it. But not in every relationship. Like that's not like a rule. I think a lot of the time people get confused between top and bottom and sub and dom. Submissive and dominant more implies that someone is more in control than the other person in a consensual way, where they're sort of calling the shots and you submit to that person. Not necessarily they give and you receive, which is what top and bottom implies. And that is, again, not for everyone. That's more prevalent within like the BDSM community and things like that, where it is wanting to give someone more power over you, which doesn't apply for a lot of relationships. So to answer your question, no. Tops and bottoms, not a thing. Can be a thing, but it would more be like sub and dom, not top and bottom. I think that that's all I have time for today. I hope that this has been educational and that you have learnt something and that you take something away from this. Please share it with other people who you think might need to benefit from this, because it is not something that is talked about at school, and it is something that a lot of people are unaware of. So feel free to share it with other vagina people. Spread the information, because we need to be talking about this, we need to be aware of this, and we need to be safe. I am going to do more videos on sex education, particularly like pornography and consent, because those are two really big and important topics, and I will do their own videos on that. Next week on Mine and Kat's podcast, there is an episode where we do talk a lot about pornography and consent and objectification and sexualization of women and vagina people within the LGBT+ community. So if you wanted to check that out, go subscribe to our channel and you can see it next week. We also have a Patreon, which starts at £3 a month, where you can get our podcast episodes a week early, as well as access to polls and things, both for our podcast and also for videos on mine and Kat's channel. So I will be asking for input on video ideas and doing polls and things and taking those ideas into consideration before ideas elsewhere. We are trying to save up for new recording equipment to make better content for you. I really appreciate the help. Any money that you give me will go directly into buying new equipment to make better content, and I'd super appreciate it. This has become a full-time job and I don't make money, so I'd really appreciate the support. I just want to do this as much as I can and make as much content as I can and educate and validate you as much as I can. My links to all my socials are also below if you wanted to give me a follow. All my music and music videos also linked below. Thank you for coming along. I hope that you feel more educated, and I hope that you take this information away and apply it to your life. Don't forget to like, comment, hit the little share button, and subscribe for more content. I post 2 to 3 times a week, and I hope that I'm able to educate and validate you. Thank you so much for coming along. Stay safe, keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.